the people in the room are going to know who I am really well now, and half of you already know me. Okay. Ashley Winkle, Associate Director of the Distance Education Professional Development Center. We are with TCAL at Texas A&M, and I don't know what you want me to share, but I will say we have been doing hybrid conferences here in Texas now for, I think we're going on our third year. Will be next month, as a matter of fact. I'm going to hand it over to Netta.
Good morning. It is 6 a.m. in California right now, okay, and that's where I'm from. So good morning, everybody. Netta Anasari, Technology Projects Coordinator for a project called OTAN, the Outreach and Technical Assistance Network. We are housed at the Sacramento County Office of Education. We are funded by the California Department of Ed. We're considered a state leadership project that does ed tech and hybrid high-flex development for teachers, adult educators throughout the state of California. And I'm so happy to be with you today. It was Eid yesterday. I just finished fasting for a month for Ramadan. So I was a little bummed that I had to, cut my celebrations short because of my travels, but then all my flights got delayed for about 3 hours. So then it was a double bummer, but I'm here this morning and we are gonna open this conference with a bang. So here you go.
Yes, we are. So one of the things we wanted to do was allow everyone to hear a little bit about what hybrid conferences that Jamie and I helped to plan, Netta, and then also Ashley. But we all met each other through something called the Ideal Consortium. And this is a group of states that are members. It's led by World Education. And what we do is really focus on how we can support adult educators with building their digital literacy skills, as well as helping adult learners build their digital literacy skills. So we offer a series of ed tech strategy webinars. We also offer an institute that's during the summer that's available for our member states. And so if you are from one of the states that are located in red, your state is an ideal member. If you're not, we still have lots of resources that are available to you. And so please feel free to come up to me after the session or message one of the panelists online, Jamie or I online, and we'd be happy to share what resources are available to you, even if you're not a member state. And so our agenda for today is we thought it might be helpful to break it up into letting you know a little bit about the 3 different types of events, what was important before the event, what was important during the event, and what was important after, and of course, lessons that we've learned. We'd love to hear your questions, though, as we're going along. For those of you that are in person, if you could just, what we're going to do, since there's only one microphone in the room and we also have panelists, is we're going to ask you to share your question, but we will repeat it so the online people can hear it as well, too. And for those of you that are online, please feel free to send your message in chat. And we do have some helpers who are monitoring the chat and can help relay those questions or ideas to us as well, too. So what we thought we'd do is start off by having each person on the panelists talk a little bit about what the event was. So Jamie, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to try to bring your video up on the system for those of you in line. If not, Jamie is the person speaking right now that's going to tell you a little bit about the event. So.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good start. All right, hi everyone. So a little background on the Ideal Consortium beyond what Destiny has shared, and I cannot see the slides again, is that we host an annual institute for our membership. Over the years prior to the pandemic, it was in person. And during the pandemic, we had online institutes. After a couple of years, we decided that we wanted to transition to hybrid because, one, we wanted to reach as many people in the consortium as possible, but there is value of being in person. So for us, it was really important to have a valuable experience for those in person as well as online to share learnings, because the Institute is not just someone's at the front speaking and we're all listening. It's a highly collaborative environment. And so we wanted to make sure that that remained during a hybrid session. As you all probably have experience, as you may know, hybrid is difficult. If you want people to be engaged online in the same way as in person, it can be difficult. I do want to also mention that the slides were uploaded to Hoover. So if you're having a hard time seeing the slides, they're really just the questions that we're discussing today. And you can go on the Hoover app and access those slides while the technical difficulties are being worked out. So to talk about before the actual event, what factors influenced our decision? We wanted a highly collaborative event where people online and people in person still felt engaged and received what they needed. That came down to the platform, it's communication, it's where the resources are, because the Institute is a highly resourced event. And what I mean, not highly resourced in lots of money, but there are a lot of resources that people engage with while they're attending the Institute. We have collaborative notes, we have breakout session notes, we have Padlets, we have chats. There's a lot happening during the Institute. So we wanted to make sure that everyone felt connected. So we were really thinking about the platform, and I think we all know that the amount of money that you plan to spend really influences how you have a hybrid event. Some events have a platform that is homegrown, and you'll hear a little bit about that. Some will use Hoover, for example, but we decided that we were going to use Zoom. And one of it has to do with cost, but it also has to do with familiarity of technology. I can see you, Destiny, and I can see background on the slide, on the screen. Thank you. So factors that influence, I just shared a little bit about that. How did we determine the needs and expectations of our audience? I spoke a little bit about it being collaborative and the need for those online to feel connected as much as those in person felt connected. What strategies did we put in place to prepare and support participants before the event? There was actually a lot of polling, a lot of questions, and a lot of communication. I would say one of the most important things when you're transitioning to a hybrid event is communication. Clear communication before, during, and after. Without communication, it's a lot of it can be a lot of confusion. So we had to really work on communication strategies for the Institute. Also making sure that because we're using technology, that we don't assume that everyone that's participating is familiar with the technology, comfortable with the technology. So not having those assumptions was an important part of our strategies, and really communicating and helping support participants prior to the event. I'm going to pause here, and I know that's a short answer, but I may respond a little bit to what you say, Ashley or Netta. But I'll like to transition it to one of our panelists who are in person in the room.
All right. Netta or Ashley, would one of you want to share a little bit about your hybrid event and kind of what influenced you to decide to offer it in a hybrid format?
Yeah, we offer a technology and what used to be called a technology and distance learning symposium once a year. And you know, the state of California is fairly large, like the state of Texas. And so it's really important for us to offer that equitable piece when it comes to hybrid education. So even we have a role within our project that covers distance ed. So we have a coordinator and other supporting positions when it comes to hybrid and distance education. And we've been talking about this for the existence of our project, which is 35 years old. And the main point was that equity piece. And so post-pandemic, we learned, like everybody else, like the world learned, that our technology and distance learning symposium at the time needed to be equitable for all people that can attend in person and those that cannot attend in person. So this was a post-pandemic learning opportunity for us. And after that, we've discovered that distance is just not the only factor, right? We learned so much more. It is HyFlex, it is hybrid, it is all the other learning formats that our learners need to learn in, right? We can't strip ourselves from being the adult learner. We are the adult learner, and so how do we offer multiple modalities in which people can learn? And that was the key. So we've kind of even switched the name of our event. It's no longer the Technology and Distance Learning Symposium, it is now the Technology and Digital Learning Symposium. That way, it can fully capture everything that we do offer, and we can bring in more participants through our in-person opportunity and our online presence as well.
Similar situation as Netta in Texas. My first question is, can they hear me online okay? I've had a lot of messages going on. Okay. Just wanted to check on them because it's very important that we are paying attention. Okay, good. Showing modeling here, I'm modeling. And speaking of that, I think another factor is modeling, right? Because all of a sudden we are starting to see more of an expectation of our teachers that they should be able to do this in class. This is not easy. We have just experienced that firsthand right this morning, the struggles we've had, you know, in making this work. Well, we're putting, our teachers are now in a HyFlex model more and more often. I see that being the future if we are going to be equitable to them. So if we are going to expect it of them, I've heard different people have their own opinions about hybrid. It's not easy, it's hard, and it's a lot of work. A lot of money goes into it as well. So our decision was very much the same. It's about being equitable and reaching more. Just like California, we know a lot of you in this room are from Texas. We're huge, right? And we have 4,000 teachers here. Well, not every teacher is going to be able to come to Houston next month. So why don't we make it free and available to them so that they can still attend? And then let's take that a step further and let's record it and let them be, so that in case they're in class or something, they can still have that opportunity. So we had the same, it was the same thing that happened with them, that happened to us. We were always in person with the distance learning and technology. It just made sense to take the next step and be hybrid. And I'm just a big supporter of doing it that way forever and getting better every year as we get more experienced.
Great. So in thinking before the event, we found that it's really important not to only think about your participants, but also the people that are going to be presenting. And so what I'm going to do is ask Ashley and Netta to start off in this case to tell us a little bit about what you did to help prepare your presenters, and then as well as what you did to help prepare participants for this type of event, both in person and online.
So so I have to acknowledge people in the room, and one of those people is Marjorie Olavides, who's sitting right over there, who is one of our tech stars when it comes to you need a village to run a conference in general. You need an even more. Do you want to see me? Is that what it is? Okay. You need a village to be able to run a conference at all, let alone a hybrid conference. And every year, Marjorie will check in and say, are you sure we still want to do the hybrid thing? And we're like, yes, we're sure. We want to just continue kind of working on it. So one of the things that we do is, we offer presenters and then a full-on training ahead of time. So a week before, we get them online, we get them fully prepared. Prior to that, there's a call for proposals. We're setting them up for success even when they're actually submitting to present for our conference. So that is one factor. We ask them, how comfortable are you presenting online? And we have several options to choose from. Do you want to present? They still have the opportunity to present in person only if that's their comfort level. Then they can identify, well, I can present, but I'm going to need support. And I would be open to applying to present hybrid. So we have to set them up for success right when they're submitting their call for proposal. That way they know what they're kind of signing up for. And there's kind of an acknowledgements page as well. That doesn't mean that even if they've acknowledged and said, oh, I'm only going to be able to present in person, I can't do online, that we wouldn't reach out later for equity's sake and say, hey, we didn't have a lot of hybrid sessions, but we have a lot more in-person sessions. Would you mind converting yours to hybrid? And here's what we're going to offer you. a tech host. And so I think we're going to go into that a little bit more later. But those are some of the things that we do. At the start, we set them up for success, and we're asking them those questions. Then they have a presenter dashboard that we upload all the templates and all the information that they need to know from handouts and what have you to their presenter dashboard, and they have access to that throughout as they prep for their presentation. Once we get closer to the event, then we're offering them kind of a boot camp in the sense that, okay, you're presenting for us, here are all the checklists, here are the items that you need to know, here's what your session is going to look like, here's what you're going to have access to, a mic, a clicker, all these different pieces, and you will have an assigned tech host. And so that's our presenters. Now on the participation side, it's important for us to help the participants understand what the tools are going to look like and how they're going to navigate them. So we host a pre-conference, we call it the pre-show, the TDLS pre-show. And this is an opportunity, we offer it twice, and it's a repeated session. And this is just an opportunity for anybody that's participating to know what's coming up next. What are we going to do? How is this going to look like? I'm attending online, but my friend is attending in person. How is that experience going to look like for me? So we do a pre-show in order for us to set up our attendees for success as well. I'll stop there.
Rena, are you taking notes? We're going to steal all of Netta's ideas since ours is next week. So she just had her conference. Can you see me? Okay. So she just had her conferences, ours is next week, so this is working out well for me. We do a lot of similar things, so I'm relieved to know that, thank goodness, and I'm taking a whole bunch of the OTAN people and bringing them to Texas this month, or next month, so excited for that. So after doing this for so many years, you definitely get a feel for where the need is, and there's a lot more support, I will say, in the state conferences that we do versus this. This is a lot bigger, though. So the biggest thing to me is the presenters. We do supply everybody with the app ahead of time, including the participants, so that they have access, and we do our best to get, the sessions in there, sufficient time. Also, once they get to the conference, we do have little stations that are going to be ready for our participants in case they need help with the app, anything like that. That's for the in-person people. And then on the presenter side, I feel like that's where we need the most help, or we try to give the most support as possible. We this year are, it is a village. She's completely right about that. Like, I can't even have any of my staff present anymore because I need those bodies to be doing other things. So within our individual rooms, I'm even hiring extra people this year to make sure that we have the support we need, because not only are we trying to make the people at the conference happy, which we did a really great job last year, but I also don't want my staff losing their minds at the end, and that's going to happen if you give them too many roles. And I gave them too many roles last year, and I learned a hard lesson. So this year I'm having basically each presenter is going to have 4 people to support them. So there's going to be a tech person, there is going to be a facilitator who's going to be there to help with the mic and that sort of a thing. We also have a co-host that's in the room monitoring the Zoom and looking for the questions. In addition, we also have a host who is off-site, who is not in the room. In addition, we have our actual app support that's with us as well. So we're not putting them on their own. We're making sure that the presenter is there for the full purpose of presenting. And I don't want to take too much time. I know I'm rambling here. But in addition to that, we do something similar. I like the idea of what she's doing with 2. We did 1 early, mostly because I wanted to get the information, because we do things a little different in Texas. And so we did 1 early, but we did a webinar for our presenters. There's so many things to be thinking about. And I think the number one thing is, of course, the participants, which we're going to talk about later a little bit more, but we are trying to really this year make a point of being there to support our presenters and make sure that they are comfortable, because a lot of them are coming from out of state, totally different facility. It's a new facility for us this year, and we just want them to be as supported as we can.
And so one of the things you may pick up pretty quickly is that both Netta and Ashley's events are big. They're quite large. The event that Jamie and I plan is smaller. We're talking about maybe 100 people. Some are online, some are in person. So as we're talking about all these, don't feel like your first hybrid event needs to be something as big as and amazing as these two do. It can be smaller. You could start off with just a very small training. And so, Jamie, is there anything you would add that we do in terms of supporting participants before the event, or any questions that you see in the chat that you'd want to address?
I don't see any questions in the chat. Um, I did not say earlier, and I think it's important to say that Destiny and I co-planned the event. And we work really well together and we think differently and we're able to bounce things off of each other, which really is a gift for planning this event. But the one thing I wanted to mention that I didn't mention before is before the event, one of the biggest things that we've paid attention to is technology and technology support. Where we host our event is a site in DC. We make sure that we meet with the IT folks prior to, we have the ability to walk through the building, take a look at the rooms, do practice sessions at this location. And that's really helpful for us before the event. It's really key before the event. And even though it may not work perfectly during the event, before the event, we do as much as we can to make sure that the technology component works well. And that's really it's almost like the most important thing for us in planning the agenda and what the capabilities are. Can we have breakout rooms? And if we do we need another Zoom room? And some of those details. So I did want to add that piece before because I didn't mention it before.
Thanks, Jamie. Are there any questions for people in the room and thinking about before the event, something that might have sparked a question at this point in time?
I do want to say,
Yeah, Ash, straight.
yeah, I'm going to run this over to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
or we can just repeat it.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the question for those of you that are online is what platform do you use? So for the presenter dashboard. So I'm gonna let Netta answer that one.
Yeah, that's a in-house created. We have a set of developers and programmers, and we created our conference platform, which we're going to showcase to you today. You'll see a small little video, but that is homegrown. So we've created it in-house. It is a website, essentially. There's a registration website that lets you into this conference platform. In that conference platform, you have an admin dashboard that the presenter will have access to, and they have rights. So we do have a set of developers that actually help us build that as well. Yes, Penny. It's definitely something that you can inquire about, support at otan.us,
So
but we can talk a little bit about
And
that
the
later.
question was, could other states purchase the platform that they use? And so that was Netta's response to that.
Yes, I appreciate I would just like notate these little moments of repeating, because these are the components to a hybrid conference, is when you repeat the question and offer that equitable experience for everybody online. I do want to notate that as much as Destiny thinks our conference is fairly large, in California, our in-person registrations at 200, we cap it at 200 people. That's small in comparison to a lot of conferences that happen in our state. But that does kind of motivate us that anything we create in person, online, in any type of meeting formats is a hybrid opportunity. So now anything that we run, even if it's a meeting, I wasn't going to say just a meeting because our meetings are equally as important. We have to be able to offer that opportunity for folks to join in online, similar to what we're doing with our friend Jamie, who's here with us as well online. And I did see another hand up. So Mandalee had her hand up.
Okay,
So
so
the
the
question-
question
oh,
was,
thank you.
okay, now I'm gonna forget the question. Okay, so everybody's so worried about me repeating the question. No, her question was, when we offer the next step for recording the sessions, how we basically remediate for accessibility. So, funny you should ask. Because we're at Texas A&M, we are going 100% accessible. It's an expectation now, so everything we do involves accessibility. So to answer your question is, and you were asking about cost. The conference is expensive. I'm not going to pretend it's not. It's part of my funding though, so I am fortunate for that. But a couple of things. We also have to make all of the presenters, anything they put, if they're putting a PowerPoint on our app, that has to be made compliant and we pay for that. So that's why we have to have our presenters, if they're going to submit a PowerPoint that's going to be shared, then they have to get it to us like 2 months in advance, which is really a lot to ask of the presenter, and they all cringe, but my recommendation to them was to keep it as simple as possible, because a lot of what they're doing is going to be showcasing a tech tool, and so like I use Book Creator religiously, and so I hate PowerPoint, to be honest with you, so if I'm going to do both. But that's one part of it, and I can tell you I've already spent about $7,000 on that. And I didn't get everybody's. I don't think I got this one's, pretty sure. Anyway, so that's part of the question. The other part was, so are you talking about the videos? The videos will be made as well. I don't know the cost on that yet, because I'm kind of still new to this. But I'll be happy to let you know, but it's going to be a lot. I'm going to say easily, because I told you I've already spent easily $7,000 on just making PowerPoints accessible. And I am using a company. There are different ways around that, and different companies cost different money. We use 3 different ones, I just learned. Some are cheaper than others. And so the sooner you get that to these companies, the faster or the cheaper it's going to be. So it is a cost that definitely is to be accrued. So I appreciate that question.
I can also add a couple of things to that. OTAN is 100% federally funded, so anything we produce must be compliant to 508 compliance and accessibility. And so that adds a different layer of expenses on our end. We actually contract out with a company called 3Play Media, which essentially allows us to ensure that any of our videos that are recorded have audio descriptors, captions, and so on before we can produce and post on our website. It's a part of that HiFlex hybrid opportunity, right? So you have your hybrid, which is happening at the same time live, or adding that HiFlex component, which is that recorded piece, that asynchronous piece. And so, oftentimes we have 60 sessions that we have to go through and remediate. And that is a cost. I mean, 3Play Media Services, I think, charges something like $16, $17 a minute to remediate. So that's an additional cost and a heavy lift. So when you start considering, how many of those videos are actually of quality that we know are to be moved forward and remediated and posted as a part of our contract. So a lot of different language in your contract that really helps support how you can move forward to ensure that equity piece and having that accessibility done.
In Pennsylvania, I will just note, this is not related to a hybrid event, but we do record some webinars and post them to YouTube. We use their automatic caption generator, and then we go back and actually have someone edit that to add more video descriptors and also to clean up, because things like TABE, it doesn't recognize. So I think this might be a great time to show the video that Netta created that shows their platform that they do use. So I'm gonna hit play and hope this works.
This is the Technology and Digital Learning Symposium website. You won't be able to gain access to this side of the conference unless paid in full, and then you will get access to the conference. This is the landing page that gives you a schedule at a glance and getting started. There's a welcome from our directors along with our keynote speaker. And then you enter into the schedule where you get to see all the variety of different sessions that are being offered throughout the conference. This becomes a very long list, so there are opportunities to filter by day, by session, by audience, by category strand, and so on, along with a glossary of abbreviations, because we know in adult education we love abbreviations. And to reduce printing up front, we do have the print option if that is something that individuals choose to do. One of the things that I'd like to bring your attention to is this little star feature. This is an opportunity to identify what exactly you want to see, what sessions are something that interests you, and then move them over to an area called My TDLS. My TDLS is an area which is a selection of all the sessions that you've identified as something that you would like to see. And then during that, you can click to the session directly, whether you're in person or online. It also gives you easier access to the evaluation. So My TDLS becomes your friend because you don't have to scroll very long lists to find what sessions you are interested in. We've given the opportunity to post a lot of resources where individuals can learn a little bit more about OTAN, what they offer, and some other supporting materials, along with a frequently asked questions page where hopefully we can reduce the amount of troubleshooting as much as possible by visiting the frequently asked questions. And if individuals still need help, there is a live help desk that is open throughout the conference from when it starts to when it ends, where we have individuals on staff manning the help desk to help individuals gain access to the conference or answer any pressing questions. This is our TDLS platform. Thank you for joining.
So at this point, we're going to talk a little bit, and we've delved into it already, a little bit about
Destiny,
what happens from.
can I cut you off?
Oh, yeah.
1 second. So you saw the live demo of that website. It's essentially similar to your Whova, similar to, we had, at some point we were using something called vFairs, similar to, and it was up to our development team to say, okay, that's not, we don't need all the capabilities of Whova. We don't need all the capabilities of vFairs at the time, but what's the market? That's the market had those conferencing tools post-pandemic, right, during the pandemic. That's why it was important for us to do something on a smaller scale, and since we had the staff, we were able to do that. So back to your question, Astrid, when you talked about a platform, we use Microsoft Teams if we need to. We can use SharePoint or Google Drive as a hub where we house all of that. So it's not so much the platform, it's as much as it's, you know, guiding the presenter to where they need to be, whether it be a platform similar to ours, whether it be a Whova, which is a brand name, or others.
So we kind of delved a little bit already in terms of staffing that you need to successfully manage the live event. But I think it's real. This next question is really important and to focus on is how do you ensure that both in-person and virtual attendees were equally engaged? So Jamie, would you want to start off answering that question?
Sure. I would say that one thing that you really have to pay attention to is the agenda. Hybrid events can be formatted and structured in many different ways, and I'll share a little bit about the Institute. We tend to have learning blocks. The event is usually 3 days or 2.5 days, and we have learning blocks, and there's a time where everyone is together in the same Zoom room for stake discussions, for featured presentations, but we then have a break, and then we branch out. Physically in person, they go into different rooms, and then those online will select a breakout room. So what we've chosen to do is use one Zoom event, one Zoom calendar invitation, one Zoom link. The main event happens in the main room of Zoom, but then we create breakout rooms for those online to go into those breakouts. And then those who are in person, they physically move to another room. Ours is set up where it's meetings. So you can see everyone, you can hear everyone. Of course, we try and make sure there's no chime at the beginning. Everyone's muted when they come in. We make sure those settings are in place at the beginning. We have facilitators in the physical room at the site, and we have someone online who is a facilitator for each of the breakout rooms. So we want to make sure that everyone's seen and heard, and we actually have a run of show. We have guidance for facilitators in person and online, and those facilitators have different responsibilities during those breakout sessions. Some are looking at the chat, some are, you know, elevating the questions in the chat or the comments. So we really are clear about roles during the breakout sessions where there's more engagement with the participants. But I will also say those of the people, when we're in the main room, there's still opportunities for people to raise their hands, to bring up questions, to unmute for those who are online, as well as for people online to see the people who are in the room. So a lot of steps we take agenda-wise, facilitator guidance, and making sure that everyone's visible online as well as in person, and also they're heard. I hope I answered that question.
Thanks.
And how many people are in the room? I'm just curious because I can't see. So I
there's
just
about
wanted to
8
say hi.
participants, and then we have 3 people that are helping to support us.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody.
All right, Ashley and Netta, do you want to share what you do to help ensure that everyone's engaged, regardless of what format that they're in?
Yes. So I will say at the Ideal Conference, they have this beautiful room that has all the stuff already in it. So they already have the cameras. So it's quite nice what they do there. We don't quite have that luxury, but we have several rooms. But I think the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the tools that you use are just so important. And I think anybody who uses technology at all knows that. I mean, engagement is so important because there's nothing worse to me than just sitting there from, because I've attended meetings, like I'm the only one attending from Zoom, and I missed half the meeting because they weren't prepared for me to be online, right? And so it's like you're watching it happen basically, and you have no idea what's going on. That's like the worst thing ever, and I can't stand it. I've been to many, and probably this one as a matter of fact before, where the presenter just forgets about the online people. And that's like my biggest thing is like, we need to focus on who's online. We need to be talking to them and remembering they're there. So a big part of that is training your presenters. And also it's also experience, because I guarantee in the beginning I was like so lost, like this is impossible. But it's not impossible. So using tools like Mentimeter, using tools like Slido, even a Kahoot, just something that they can participate with you. What I really like doing, which I think I am doing this week at some point, is like having a tool and having them engage at the very beginning. So let's use Mentimeter as an example, collaboration tool. Hey, you can ask questions throughout, you can, I'm gonna stop and engage you, and everybody's a part and everybody has a voice. So it's not just talking about your online audience, it's also talking about the quietest person in the room, right? Now that person has a voice. Again, we're modeling, right? We're modeling good things. So those are the biggest, I think those are the biggest things for me that are really important. And also, like what Jamie said, is including those people in group activities. How are you going to address that? That's always very challenging, obviously, in this platform.
Yeah, so this one's a tough one because we struggle with this only because we ask anybody to present for us. And this becomes a little tricky because then you have a variety of different experiences presenting for us. So, we try to set the presenter up for success, and we talk about those formats, and we talk about engagement tools, and we say, we encourage you. Presentations are no longer kind of sit and get. When we learn, we're learning by moving. We need to get up. We need to maybe engage the brain in something kind of like a Mentimeter and or a poll and or fill in the blank. And to a certain extent, yeah, some of those presenters will take some of that advice. If they're newer to the presenting realm, they get a little, sidetracked and really just want to talk about the topic and or they're, kind of getting themselves comfortable. So there's a certain amount that we can only do. We can only do so much to kind of prepare the presenter, right? Because we're inviting them to come in. One of the things we pride ourselves in is our what used to be called a room host, where we used to ask them to help us count attendance, help us make sure people are finishing up their evaluations. And then that transformed after that, when we became a hybrid conference, into a tech host, because they were so much more than a room host. And when we open up our registration, we're actually calling on anybody that's interested to become this volunteer room host. And we get a handful of those that want to volunteer to become this tech host. And then we have several what we call subject matter experts throughout the state of California. So we're saying, hey, by the way, in addition to presenting for us, you will be a tech host at our TDLS, at our Technology and Distance Learning Symposium. And we have a digital leadership academy. So we have participants in our digital leadership academy. We have about 30 in our digital leadership academy. We say, hey, we'll pay for your registration to attend our conference, but you're going to be a tech host. So we utilize our people to help us run those sessions. And our tech hosts are mainly the ones that are helping us engage the online audience. We cannot, there's only so much we can do with our presenters to prepare them for success, to tell them, hey, these are the engagement tools. We want you to use engagement tools. We want you to share your slides. We want you to do all these things. But the tech host is on that Zoom asking, hey, is audio okay? How are things going? What do we need to do? Do you have any questions for the presenter? And then let the presenter know, hey, we have an online question. We'll display the chat. We'll display pictures if people are comfortable enough sharing their pictures. So their Zoom information is actually being shown to the in-person folks, and the online folks can see each other to have that equitable experience. So I think our magic comes with our tech hosts. Marjorie, is there anything else you'd like to add? So by the way, we have 2 AV audiovisual staff, and that is a blessing. We got very, very, very lucky. They have that background in audiovisual. So what else? Is there anything else you'd like to add that I can repeat? Yeah.
So Marjorie was saying that things are going really well, but one of the things they want to do is focus on having the tech room in-host get even more prepared for that role, because it does require a lot. So special shout out to Marjorie, Liz, and Rena for helping us today getting set up. That kind of answers the next question. How do you handle unexpected tech issues? I mean, you all in the room saw it today. If you're watching the recording or joining online, you saw it as well too. I was pretty much fumbling through some things, and they snuck in and helped solve those issues.
I think there's a question.
Yeah, Tina.
Yes.
So Tina's asking what kind of training do you provide to the tech host, the in-room host? And so Jamie, do you want to just quickly answer that? And then Netta and Ashley, if there's things that you would add?
I would say for us, since we're using Zoom, it's less training on Zoom platform. The IT team is familiar with that. I think for us, it's been informing them of the importance of keeping the experience just as valuable for people online as it is in person. And we communicate that often and frequently with the IT team, because I don't know if they recognize that in the same way. But I also want to add that Dr. Jen Vanek, who is the ideal person, she is ideal. She's the MC for the event. And it really helps when the MC is flexible and there's tech issues, but the MC is able to respond calmly or bring in something else into the agenda while those tech issues are smoothed out, because the MC kind of can carry the energy of the event. So I do want to mention that.
Great point. Ashley, Netta, is there anything else you would add in terms of training for the people that are providing tech support and support to the presenters?
That's an interesting question. I will say that we are very selective about who we choose for each role. There's a guideline. I wouldn't say it's a full-on training, but like we are fortunate enough in Texas that we do have a tech support call center. So I'm flooded with tech people, basically. I mean, there's 2 right here that are like, they're not in 3, actually. 3 of my team is here right now, and they're just highly tech people. So we're trying to keep people that are super comfortable with tech at the tech level. Also, because they're on my team, those are good people to go to anyway for questions and that sort of a thing. I think my computer's okay. They're worried that my computer's gonna die. But in addition to that, though, we do have very specific guidelines, and I will be doing a training. Most of them are my staff. I'm keeping the simpler jobs to people that are volunteers. We did the same thing you did with the volunteers. So they're doing like things like the food table and things like that, whereas the more heavy load is really in the room, right? So these are people that are on our TCall staff, and they are pretty experienced already. And so our biggest things is every conference we do, something changes a little, and sometimes people don't like those changes. And so it's just getting them adapted to those things each time. So it's not a heavy training on our end, but it is a light training.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the attendee pre-show, and we talked a little bit about the presenter training. We do the same training for room hosts. So we offer 2 live opportunities for folks to jump in. If you are now considered a room host, or rather a tech host, now we offer you the training. In addition to that, we have, for lack of a better term, a Google Sheet that basically has all their hot links. Their hot links to their Zoom, their hot links to, you know, a troubleshooting, the phone number of the tech support that's going to be roaming around if they can't troubleshoot themselves. You know, they can call on Marjorie or Gerald to be able to come into their room and help them. So there's kind of a master room host sheet that allows them to go into this. All of that to say is that we still run into, what we consider setting them up for the best success, when it be the master sheet, whether it be the online training, or even providing them with the recording. We still have issues with this tech host piece that we're still trying to fine tune, just because comfort levels, right? I like what Ashley is saying about being very selective when it comes to folks that, you know, who becomes a tech host and who is, you know, a volunteer at the food table and so on. And I think OTAN has some serious kind of work to do with identifying who we're going to move into more of a tech host role and who we're going to utilize as a volunteer for the event.
Thanks. And so one of the things that we, for Jamie and I do, is we make sure in the room that there's a printout version of information participants might need, like a QR code to get into the Zoom room, the internet username and password. We also have a room that's, or a piece of paper that's in the room that kind of is the same thing that Netta has. We have an electronic version as well as a print version, because sometimes you just need a print version. And so there are a few questions from the audience, so I'm going to take those real quickly. Liz? Great. So for those of you that are online, you probably saw this, but Jamie shared some links to Goose Chase, which is a fun event. One of the things you can see is that room setup and equipment's really important. So when you have a panel, it is nice to have like even a third microphone to be for the audience. And then, Marjorie, was there anything you were going to add?
Training?
So Marjorie, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So we have a dedicated staff person that's the main contact for our room tech hosts. And so Marjorie added that in addition to this master document, in addition to, you know, the online training that they also get a PowerPoint that walks them through all their duties when they are tech hosts, so they can kind of go through those pieces. So, and then they have the direct contact of what we call our ground kind of tech support that is going to be running from room to room. They're not necessarily tied to one session. So again, Still some fine tuning, but those are some of the pieces that we add to the list.
So this has been great discussion. I want to make sure we get to the lessons learned part, so I'm going to just breeze through this. Collecting data is really important, data from your participants, the presenters, the people providing the support to the presenters, and you can use that information to help your next year or next event go even more smoothly. And so I think it's important for us to talk a little bit about lessons learned. And so based on our time, what I'm going to ask each presenter to do is maybe spend 2.5 minutes with one or more of these questions, just to kind of share what you felt was either a big takeaway or a challenge that came up that you feel like it might be important to share with people, and how you address that. And so Jamie, I'm going to start with you. And like I said, we're going to try to keep this to about 2 minutes or so we can make sure that if there's any other final questions.
Hybrid events are hard, but worth it. Some events require the in-person connection, but you don't want to leave out others who can get the learning and still some connection when they're online. For me, I actually will answer this question a little differently, because during one of our institutes, we decided to then extend the institute for another event and make that other event hybrid. And I see Ashley, you're smiling because you know what I'm talking about. And Netta knows what I'm talking about too. And I would say, pay attention to if it really needs to be a hybrid event. For me, that's a big takeaway. Sometimes we assume everything should be hybrid, but that's not always the case. So I would say that a big lesson and something you really need to evaluate is, why do I want it to be hybrid, and does it have to be? Can it be online instead of hybrid? When you're doing a hybrid event, as you know, you're hosting online and in person. Yes, an in-person event is complex enough. Online is complex, and you're combining the two. So you have to consider the labor, the cost, and if it's required for this event to be successful. And since Destiny, you said we only have 2 minutes, I'm just going to leave it there. It doesn't have to be hybrid event. Just really evaluate your purpose, reason, and resources in order to do it well.
Thanks, Jamie. Netta, do you want to answer one or more of those questions, a big takeaway, challenge, or things you might do moving forward in about 2 minutes?
Okay. We listen to our evaluations. Our evaluations tell us a lot. We actually have an in-house data specialist who will extract all the data from our evaluations and give us a thorough kind of walkthrough of things that we can fix immediately, things that we can fix within next year, they should be done, how we can kind of factor that in for future years, especially if it comes down to tech. And I want to, emphasize tech is going to break, it'll be challenging, there will be issues. And so what tech is out there, go to those trade shows, find the tech. We use OwlCams to help us conduct a hybrid conference. That is one tool. There are many other tools. There are things called IPVOs. There are things called swivel cameras. You have to kind of take a look and see what works best for you. There's technology out there to help you run a successful hybrid conference. And the last thing that I always like to say is we're educators. But then we're supposed to run hybrid conferences. And it's okay because we're adult educators. You tell us what to do and we'll do it, right? And probably do things that we don't, typically know. But we're flexible. And it's okay to not know all the things and be all things to all people. We start small, back to Jamie's point. We pivot, we learn from our experiences, we listen to our evaluations, we make the changes we can make immediately in the year, or we plan for the future, the next 3 to 5 years, and so on. I have to, just shout out that OTAN does a really, I don't know if this is a good job, Marjorie, because it's one of the things that, gives us a little challenge, but we like to highlight our adult schools throughout our state. So when we offer our conference, we offer it at an adult school in our state. So we pivot from Northern California to Southern California, and we find the adult school that one can house 200 people in person and has the bandwidth to also cover our online presence. And then what do their classrooms look like? We do this because we want the program to be highlighted. We want people to learn from each other. But we also do it because, hey, hotel costs get a little pricey and we don't have the budget for it. So it's kind of a win-win situation. So that adds a little bit of a layer. So we've invested in that tech to travel with us wherever we go, whether it be the OWL cameras. We can't necessarily travel with those Promethean boards or those ViewSonics, but we do look for the sites that have invested in that tech, and that's where we kind of go and host a lot of our events. I'll hand it to Ashley. I think that was more than 2.5 minutes.
It probably was knowing you, but that's okay. You have a reputation, you know. I know. Anyway, I will just follow up with what she said, basically, because everything she said was pretty much dead on with what I agree with completely. And we do the same thing. We're trying to start traveling across Texas, too, as well. But aside from that, I will still, even though I know I'm repeating myself, I'm still going to stand with know what you have staff-wise, because that was the most critical thing. I've never been so tired in my life as I was last year on the first day of our conference because I was short-staffed. And I was 1 million people at once, and so were they. And it was just too much. You're gonna burn them out. I mean, we pulled it off, but I wanna be better than just pulling it off. And, you know, we're still new to it too, and every year we get a little bit better. And so I'm hoping, you know, this will be the best year yet. But even so, I'm already hearing myself say things, well, next year we're gonna do this. And the other thing I'm gonna say, and I'll try not to ramble too, you weren't rambling, I'm just kidding. No, but I'll try not to ramble. The other thing I would say is planning is, oh my gosh, so important. Planning, and my biggest downfall last year is I wasn't given the time to plan, and this year we started very early. We started probably 6 to 9 months out, if not more, because there are so many things, and finding the right venue and finding the, you know, every little step. I literally made myself a checklist that started like in July, and our event is at the end of April. But that's how soon I started, and just said, let's look at this, let's look at that. And that came to looking at the evaluations, what can we do better, those sorts of things, to what can't we do to the end, like getting the food ready, things like that. So planning and staff are probably my 2 biggest takeaways.
Modeling is a big one. That, you know, we do electronic check-in. We're a tech conference. I want COAB next year to have an electronic check-in. I was in that line for 20 minutes this morning. So those are some of the things, and no shade. I mean, everybody has those kind of, you know, comfort levels in which they can do. But, you know, just think of, if you're going to throw tech into the mix when you're, you know, offering a hybrid conference, then practice modeling what you can do with tech. Find, you know, we do a tech playground. We also, you know, offer a wellness space where teachers can take care of themselves. So take the opportunity, find the tech, invest in the tech when you can. If you're running a conference that involves any type of tech, showcase it. That way we can model by example.
Great. So at this point, I want to see if there's any questions or comments online. And if someone doesn't mind being the mic runner, we're going to try to use that now that we're kind of finished with the panel part of this. We'd love to hear what comments or questions are online, and then we'll turn it over to you in person to see what questions or comments you have.
Yeah, Jamie had a comment. Jamie, go ahead and unmute, and if you don't mind, and read it to the room.
Was that me, Jamie, or another Jamie?
Yes,
Okay.
Jamie Harris. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, the most recent comment is the people who staff the event are key for our institute. We're really grateful to have world education colleagues support as facilitator, hosts, social event leads, catering. The people that are supporting are key, and it's along the lines of what Ashley just shared. Yeah, and we start planning in January for an event that happens in August. So
Yeah, so a lot of lead time. Those of you that are in person, what questions, comments do you have? Are you thinking about a hybrid event? What's formats are you thinking about?
So this is really just more of a comment because I was also a room host at TDLS. And in my role, I do a lot of meetings online, so I'm pretty used to like pulling in links and pulling things into the chat. So, I think I gave you the feedback, but I think if you have an opportunity to have those room hosts connect with the presenter, if the presenter can supply, hey, we're going to go to this website, or this is a resource that we are going to share, have that accessible for your room host to drop into the chat, because then it feels like they're in the room and in the space with the presenter and with all of the other people that are there. And when I was room hosting, that's what I did. And I mean, I think I had a good experience, but.
Thanks for sharing that. Any other questions, comments?
Before you go, though, we'll drop into the chat the link they mentioned earlier, taking feedback so that we can improve. This is a hybrid event, so we will be requesting that you complete a survey online. The link is being dropped now, and in person, it's a blue or black ink pen or a pencil. And then what other questions do you have? Maybe something about how do you use the surveys to craft your next? That's a good question. How would you use the feedback?
So,
Well, I'll just say we use the feedback in our surveys to craft the next year. And we actually have a survey for people who attend the Institute, but we have a debrief for the event team separately. And we take feedback from those who were participating to better craft the next Institute, as well as the evaluations to develop the agenda and make some changes in the next year.
So, thank you so much for coming to our session. We hope you leave with the idea that you can do this. Our contact information is here, so please feel free to reach out to any of us if you'd like more information or have some questions. And just keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfect. As you saw, our session today was not perfect, but hopefully it was still a good learning experience for those online and in person. So thank you so much for joining and starting your COABE conference with us today. We really appreciate all your participation for those of you online or in person, and have a great day.